Saturday, June 1st, on the way to Miami. This is day 2 of the ride down, going through Georgia, southern Georgia, and came across the Andersonville POW prison site, National Historic Site. So we're going to go here and take a look. Just pulled into the parking lot. Got a nice shaded area here, thank goodness, because it's going to be in the 90s this afternoon. But looks like you got all the state flags around the parking lot. This is the visitor center we can already go into. And this is the visitor center and POW museum. And this covers the POW museum for all the wars, not just the Civil War, the Andersonville site. It'll be all the wars. I'll let you pause that if you want to read it. But pretty nice facility. Walking up, see what we can learn about the POWs and Andersonville here. Here are some of the placards that were on the wall in the POW museum. I thought they contained some interesting facts. I'm scrolling through kind of fast, so feel free to pause and read them if you like. The placards here are talking about the 3 women that were in Andersonville as POWs, which I didn't know that they had women in the Andersonville prison. But these women here were captured on the battlefield alongside their husbands. Statistics about POWs, it's broken down war by war, how many POWs were captured during that war. Now we're going to walk up to Providence Spring. It was said that during the summer that, I believe it was during 1864, that a storm came through, lightning struck the ground and created the spring. And this is where it was at. Obviously this building here was constructed down the road, but oh, here's a placard about the spring. Hopefully it shows up so it can be read. Let's go down and check it out. We have the spring. You can probably hear the water running. There's signs along the path here that says the water is not for human consumption, but it's the water's cool, clear. Definitely would try it. Honestly, I got pretty lucky. I went to the website. The website said this was under construction and may not be accessible, but obviously it is. So that worked out pretty good. Looks like we have part of the stream over here too, the spring. Runs out into the creek bed here. Some people throwing money into it. Up here on the north gate, see the guard tower up there. Walk around the corner here, and see the gate. Now, if I understand it right, prisoners were brought into this gate. The door would close behind them, and once the door behind them was closed, then this gate would open, sending them out to the yard or the camp. So you come out of the gate, and the first thing you see is the deadline, which is the railing here, that if the prisoners crossed that line, then they were ordered to be shot. Or the guards were ordered to shoot them, I should say. There's one of the guard posts up there and up there. It's hard to believe this field here held all those Union soldiers. And back inside the gate, that was camp, to get into the camp. And then here's a placard here. This here's when the gates opened. This is what they saw. This here was the south gate. And coming up here would be the southwest corner of where Andersonville was. So this empty field here was the site of the third and last hospital of Andersonville. So here we're coming out from the southwest corner, going towards the southeast corner. You'll see the white post sticking out of the ground. The white post that's closest to the road represents where the stockade wall was. The second white post marks where the deadline was. Here we're coming up on the southeast corner. It's marked. Just across the street from the southeast corner shows where the bunker was that contained the cannons to help protect Andersonville should it come under attack. So this is the creek that runs through Andersonville, and it's running from down by the north gate towards us. So the Confederate troops were upstream, and they pretty much get first access to the water. And usually the water was already tainted by the time it came down to the prisoners. And this is the end of the stream where the prisoners would use as latrines and sinks so that they could keep the water more pure up there, obviously upstream. And there's signs all over the place saying venomous snakes in the area. Here we're coming up on the northeast corner of Andersonville. Now this corner has been reconstructed, so you know what the corners consisted of back in the time of Andersonville. So this first section here are the prisoners that died here at Andersonville. This side also. You notice how close together they are, and that's because they just dug trenches, pretty much put them shoulder to shoulder and recorded their numbers. And later down the road, one of the prisoners made a copy of which prisoner's name went with what number, so they were able to come back and give them a tombstone. So here's the information about the raiders and their graves here, which they pretty much murdered, robbed from their other prisoners there. They were tried and convicted and hanged in Andersonville. And the men requested that they not be buried with the other POWs. So they are off out here all by themselves. away from everybody else. There's Andersonville straight ahead. So here, the Union soldiers were shipped in via rail cars, and when they'd arrive, they'd be unloaded from the rail cars and marched over to the POW camp. So this is the Little Drummer Boy Museum. Everything is authentic. It was a collection. I think a guy spent like 30 years getting it together. So the Little Drummer Boy Museum has Mary Surratt's bonnet. I'll read you the plaque down here. This bonnet belonged to Mary Surratt. She was hung as a conspirator in the Lincoln assassination on July 7th, 1865 at the Arsenal Prison in Washington, D.C. Along with Lewis Payne, George Atzerodt, and David Harold, General Eckert escorted the prisoners to the gallows. The bonnet was given to him when it was removed and the hood placed over her head. So here's a pretty neat little diagram of what we just toured at Andersonville. I'm at the Little Drummer Boy Museum. And you can see the south gate was over there. This was the north gate, which we just took the tour of. And then here was the corner that was rebuilt that we passed by. And of course, here's the creek that went through the middle of Andersonville. And then on the far end down there is the railroad where they brought the troops in and marched them to the prison site.
That's about 1,400 degrees.
Ooh, pretty warm. So behind the businesses there in Andersonville, the little drummer boy museum is what they have, what they call Pioneer Village, I believe is what it was. And they pretty much have just replicas of like old jails, stores, and from the time period. And they do have a active blacksmith on hand that will demonstrate his skills. And that's what we have.
Let me turn my fan off.
So when you come into Andersonville, you'll see a monument in the middle of the road, and that monument's dedicated to Henry Wirz. It's W-I-R-Z. He was the commandant of Andersonville POW camp. After the war, Wirz was tried and executed for conspiracy and murder relating to his command of the camp, and was one of only 2 people convicted for war crimes during the American Civil War. So I just finished editing the Andersonville video, and there's just a little bit of information and a couple stats I wanted to throw out that I left off the video. So Andersonville is about 2.5 hours south of Atlanta and about 30 minutes west of I-75. So if you're traveling I-75 through Georgia, it's definitely worth the 30-minute detour over to check it out. It's completely free. The Visitor Center offers a 30-minute video on the history of Andersonville. I'd recommend checking that out before you go out to the actual site, just so you have a little bit of background on it before going out. Andersonville was originally built on 16 acres, but due to overcrowding, they had to increase it to 26 acres. It was originally meant to house right around 10,000 prisoners. However, it actually housed closer to 40,000 prisoners. And out of the 40, almost 13,000 prisoners perished at Andersonville. So it was a pretty rough life there. But definitely worth checking out Andersonville. I recommend it. If you like this video, throw me a thumbs up, and you can also subscribe. Thanks for watching.